In this week's space news, I cover Intuitive Machines working on an Earth Reentry spacecraft. Second, Lockheed Martin showcases their vertical solar power system for the Moon. Third, Radian Aerospace unveils a space reentry vehicle. And lastly, the latest on Firefly's last flight. Okay, let's get started. Texas Space Commission selects Intuitive Machines to advance Earth reentry and microgravity biomanufacturing spacecraft. I reported on the Texas Space Commission making awards last week. Well, they are at it again with another award. This time the award is to Intuitive Machines, the company building lunar landers. The award is for $10 million for Intuitive Machines to develop an Earth reentry vehicle and orbital fabrication lab. The lab can be used for biomanufacturing in the microgravity environment of space. This reentry vehicle platform will help reduce the risk of future lunar sample return missions. Tim Crane, Intuitive Machines' Chief Growth Officer, said this about the award. Returning samples from space is one of the most complex challenges in exploration. We are grateful to the state of Texas for fostering an environment where companies like Intuitive Machines may develop transformative space technologies, unquote. We have a render from Intuitive Machines of what the reentry vehicle could look like. Intuitive Machines began designing an Earth reentry vehicle in 2022. The vehicle will be capable of supporting returning materials from low Earth orbit, the Moon and Mars. They later partnered with Radian Scientific for commercial microgravity biomanufacturing in space. Removing gravity can help create purer forms of materials. Many important pharmaceuticals have a crystalline structure, which can be grown with fewer defects in the microgravity environment of space. The award from the Texas Space Commission will support the creation of a full-scale ground prototype of the vehicle. Intuitive Machines believes this award and the partnership with Radian Scientific will pave the way for future grants and large-scale projects to create a re-entry system that's ready to be tested in space. Okay, onto our second story this week. Powering the Moon, vertical solar arrays charge the way. I focus on space startups on this channel, but occasionally I cover other companies that are doing important stuff that will help space startups. For this story, I want to cover Lockheed Martin, a giant aerospace company in the US, and their work on living sustainably on the Moon. One of the key resources needed to do anything on the Moon is power. That's where Lockheed Martin comes in with their VSAT technology. It's a vertical solar array. When fully unfurled, it can reach a height of 65 feet. That makes it perfect for the Moon's south pole, where the craters and the low sun angle can make it difficult to use solar power. The South Pole is where lunar water ice is suspected to be, hiding in the permanently shadowed regions and craters. Their VSAT technology will be used to capture solar power and use it for various lunar operations, from habitation modules to charging lunar rovers to in situ resource utilization, which is a fancy way of saying living off the land or using local resources for building and manufacturing. For certain regions in the Moon's south pole, sunlight can be received 80 to 90% of the time, making it a great place to position solar panels. However, the low angle of the sun can make it challenging to capture sunlight, hence the reason Lockheed Martin will be creating a system where the solar panels are unfurled vertically. Their VSAT can remotely deploy and retract the solar panels, allowing for the system to be relocated if necessary. For the harsh lunar environment, their system has undergone rigorous testing to ensure it can survive the freezing lunar nights and the sticky abrasive lunar dust that gets everywhere. The system must also be able to handle slopes and inclines due to the uneven lunar surface. Okay, onto our third story this week. Radian Aerospace unveils plans for re-entry vehicle. Radian Aerospace has long-term plans to develop a spaceplane, but first they will test a reusable re-entry vehicle called R3V. This will help de-risk the spaceplane by testing and verifying the re-entry phase can be achieved successfully. The company, based in Seattle, will use the test vehicle to gain flight experience and develop key technologies needed for their future Radian 1 spaceplane. Radian has tested the TPS or Thermal Protection System at NASA's Glenn Research Center, achieving promising results. However, ground tests cannot replicate the extreme temperatures and pressures of atmospheric re-entry. The R3V, designed to fly on a small to medium launch vehicle, will follow a suborbital trajectory to expose the TPS to real flight conditions. After each test, Radian plans to recover and reuse the vehicle, building flight experience and refining systems. Beyond testing, the R3V offers early revenue potential as a hypersonic test platform. Radian has received interest from government and commercial customers, positioning the vehicle as a dual-purpose asset. The company targets the R3V's first flight for 2026. They have already started work on a prototype vehicle for Radian 1, testing landings and takeoffs in Abu Dhabi. And the company is already working on a second prototype that includes lessons learned from their first prototype vehicle. Okay, on to our final story this week. FAA grounds Firefly Aerospace's Alpha rocket until failure investigation is complete. Firefly Aerospace's Alpha rocket has been grounded until further notice. The FAA, which is the US Federal Aviation Administration, is requiring an investigation into the causes of the failure of Firefly's Alpha rocket. The vehicle took off from Vandenberg Space Force Base on the 29th of April 2025, but after 2.5 minutes of normal flight, things went wrong. From video on the ground plus onboard cameras, it looks like the first stage exploded around stage separation, which resulted in the nozzle of the second stage being blown off. The second stage continued, but without the nozzle, it couldn't generate enough thrust to reach orbit, and ended up ditching into the Pacific Ocean a short time later. The FAA said in a statement after the incident, "A return to flight is based on the FAA determining that any system, process or procedure related to the mishap does not affect public safety. In addition, Firefly may need to request and receive approval from the FAA to modify its license that incorporates any corrective actions and meet all other licensing requirements." Unquote. Firefly will lead the mishap investigation, though the FAA will be involved in every step and must approve the company's final report according to the agency. For more on the way forward for Firefly, check out my video, it should be on screen now. Okay, that's a wrap, thanks for watching. Space News Live is on Saturday evening or Sunday morning depending where you watch from. I recap the videos I posted this week, answer questions, respond to comments and chat messages, cover any missed news and preview upcoming content. I'd love for you to join if you can. Be sure to like and subscribe so you'll see our upcoming videos. We make videos every week covering the space industry, with an emphasis on the smaller space startups that aren't covered so well on other channels. See you soon.